Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host, Dividend Dave, and welcome back and thank you so much. If you are new here, please subscribe and join the Passive Income Posse. We would love to have you on board. You don't want to miss any of the upcoming incredible guests. And speaking of the incredible guests, we have finally our very first female voice on the Passive Income Podcast. You can find her on Twitter at Ms. Financial Fit. Justine, welcome to the Passive Income Podcast.
Hello. Dave, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and chatting it up with you and with your, and your audience and your followers. My name is Justine, everyone. I am known as Miss Financial Fit on Twitter, Miss Financial Fitness on Instagram. Super excited to be here. I'm based out in Southern California, in Los Angeles. A little bit about me. I have worked in the education space for about 14 years. So used to be a teacher. But now for my 9 to 5, I train teachers on how to use an educational software program in school and basically showing them how to implement that program. But outside of that, I am a certified financial educator. And so I love helping students, families, individuals, couples, singles, anyone that just wants to up their financial education game. And so happy to work with anyone and everyone to get you where you want to be. And I'm guessing that's time, location, like time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. I am your gal if you have any questions around financial education and personal finance.
That's
So
awesome.
Dave, thank you for
Yeah,
having me
no,
here.
thank you for coming on and spending some time with us this afternoon. So you've been doing that for 14 years. So did you start when you were like 12 or 13 years old?
You know what? I get that question a lot because they look at me and they're like, dude, how old are you? Right. So I'm actually 34, but I really started working in education when I got out of college. So I was still in college when I started tutoring and working with our low income youth and helping them with, negotiating and being able to. Okay, side little fact, I've never shared this on Twitter, but I am also a certified mediator. And so I did a lot of work back in college where I would go to high schools and I would work with high school students and I'd serve as a mediator and help them solve their issues together. So that's a fun little fact, Dave. I've never shared that with the Twitter world. So I'm like sharing that with you right now, my friend.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, great backstory. Love it. Love the fact that you have that financial background and education as well, and that you're there to help people. That's great, and helping people get to where they want to be in life, like you said. Um, you know, location freedom, financial freedom, time. We're all, for the most part, people are trading their time for money. And
Yeah.
when can we reverse that and have our money pay for our time, right?
Right, exactly. You know what? I did and you might know this, I did a presentation, a financial workshop with 400 high school students, 12th graders, about a month ago. I think you might have seen that on Twitter. And one of the biggest things that I told them and talked to them about was we've got to get out of that mindset where you are trading your time for money. And instead, we need to switch that around. And really, the ultimate goal is that you want to have time, right? Because time is your currency. And time is what's going to get you that location freedom, that time freedom, that financial freedom. And so being able to reverse that mindset is absolutely key. So one of the biggest things for me is when I talk to families or I talk to students and I talk to my friends about, financial education and money, it's that we've got to get out of that mindset and in believing that we need to trade our time for money. And really, we want the opposite of that, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
That's a great
yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah.
That's amazing too that you're talking to high school students, 12th graders, because we see it all the time. Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
on Twitter, somebody saying, "Oh, my kids are going to school and they're learning about math and science and geography and history, and those are obviously great subjects, but where is the financial education in there as well?
Right, exactly. Dave, I know this is like kind of off topic, but can I
That's
share
okay.
another story? If it's okay with you, we're just gonna free flow with this.
Yeah, that's
But
exactly what I wanna do.
gorgeous. So I was actually working. I was working with two high school students, and I was sitting next to them, and I looked at them, and I was like, "Hey guys, what do you want to learn?" And they just gave me this like really strange look, and they're like, "What do you mean? What do you want to learn?" And I'm like, "Well, if you could learn anything in school, anything, it could be how to fix cars, how to create your own business. It could be about how to make extra money. If you could just learn anything in school, what would you want to learn?" And they were so confused, Dave. Like they were so confused. They were just like, what is this lady talking about? And then one of them goes, "You mean like English and math and science?" I'm like, "No, bro. No. I am literally like, you got a
I'm
genie
opening the
lamp
door for
and
you. You already have to learn the English, science, and math part and the history and geography. I'm opening the door for you
exactly
to let me know anything else that you want to learn.
anything." Right, exactly, Dave, exactly, that's what it was. And I'm like, "Listen, if you guys had like a genie lamp and you could rub that lamp, what would you wish for? Like, what would you want to learn? It could be literally anything." And one of them, they looked at each other like this, and they're like, "We want to learn like actual life skills." And I'm like, "Okay, tell me more, what
Yeah,
does that look like? What does that mean to you? What is a life skill?" They're like, "We want to know how to pay rent. We want to know about taxes. We want to know about, just like how money works." And I was like, "Well, let's talk about that really
yeah,
quickly." Right. So I looked at them. I'm like, "All right, cool. So you guys want to learn how to pay rent. You want to learn about taxes. You want to learn about making more money. Well, let me ask you this. Do you know how to budget?" And then they both looked at each other. I think they might have been a couple. I don't know if they were together or not, but
yeah.
and they kind of looked at each other, and they said budget. What is that? I'm like, "Do you guys know what a budget is?" They're like, "No, we don't know what that is." I'm like, "All right, so do you work?" And so I actually sat down with these two kids. I should stop calling them kids, Dave, because they're
Yeah.
not
They're
they're not
like budget.
kids, you know.
That's a rental car place, right? Budget rental car.
Right, exactly, exactly. So I'm not even kidding. Like I was looking for a piece of paper, just something to write on. And then this one kid who's like off to the side and he's observing the conversation, he goes, "Oh, here you go, miss." And he hands me, I kid you not, just one of those like small basic index cards. So I flip it around and I tell him, I'm like, "All right." And I drew on there and I just kept it super simple, right? Because I'm not going to go over there and start talking about, all different technical terms, but I just kept it super simple. And I basically took two columns, expenses and your income, right? And then and I just helped them fill that out.
Yeah,
And so it was just really cool to have that moment with them. And both of them, you could see that light bulb like click. And for me, that's what I love to see. That's what I want to see. Because before you start talking about making more money and you're doing, and you want to figure out taxes and rent and all of that, you got to figure out, first of all, what's your income? Like, do you have money coming in? And then knowing what your fixed costs are and your expenses are. You know what
right.
I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. But that's great.
Yeah.
So high schoolers, 12th grades are probably about 18 years old. So they're right on that cusp of, well, at 18, they technically are adults, probably still living at home, but thinking about moving out, thinking about, okay, well, I have a job, but I'm
Hmm.
only 18. It's not like I'm making 100 grand a year. I'm probably working a minimum wage job or something, not much more than that, but have to figure out, okay, how do I pay rent, pay my phone bill, pay for the internet, pay for, heat and hydro, and et
Yes.
cetera, right?
Seriously. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of the kids or students, again, kids, right? A lot of, well, shoot, we should be teaching this to our kids anyways, right, Dave? Right?
Yeah, you would
You
think.
know, you would think. But that was really fun and exciting to do that with them. And I think the more we have these conversations, the more you start planting that seed, hopefully the students, they water those seeds and they actually take action and do something about it. It's interesting. I think a lot of them, if I mention investing, it's a really scary word, right? It's a really scary word, and it's like, well, what's investing? Isn't that gambling? And it's like, woo, we go. That's not. We got to first, it's just breaking
Yeah.
all of these myths, right? So I'm like, okay, first of all, that is not gambling,
Yeah, going to
and so just
going to
kind of,
Vegas, that's gambling.
right. you know like going to Las Vegas and putting 100 down on craps, I don't know, like that's
Yeah,
gambling, right? um but with investing, I definitely don't see it as gambling. And when I talk to the students, that's definitely something that I mentioned to them, and just letting them know that, like, with the power of investing, you can create passive income streams. And that's another thing too, right, Dave? Is that a lot of our students, they don't know the difference between active income and passive income,
right.
right? And so that's like, the active income is like their 9 to 5 job. If they have that, they will have that someday. If I'm talking about high school students, or if they have a W-2, or they have a part-time job at In-N-Out Burger or Taco Bell or wherever. Do they have Taco Bell in Canada where you're at?
We Oh, yeah, we have Taco Bell, but we do not
Okay,
have
cool.
In-N-Out Burger.
Oh, Dave,
I've
my
seen so
friend,
many
you're
YouTube
missing
videos. I've
out.
seen there was an old Mr. Beast YouTube video where he drove from North Carolina all the way to California just for In-N-Out Burger.
Awesome. Did he enjoy it?
I'm
Hopefully.
pretty sure,
Yes,
yeah,
yes or no?
I'm sure it was like that's like before he was like a really big YouTuber back when he only had 1,000,000 subscribers or something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I love it. I hope he did enjoy it. But you know what I mean? So it's just, it's little things like that, and then letting them know, like, hey, investing, it's a great tool to help you build your wealth, but then also on top of that, you can create that passive income stream with dividends, right?
Dividends.
So, I mean, hence your
You
name, Dividend Dave,
you kinda
and
know I love my dividends. I just love them. I just love them. I don't know if you've ever seen it's my pinned tweet where it's something to the effect of when companies started to pay me to not work for them, it's just that seems like the best gig ever.
oh my God, Dave, you have like an absolute, like, opportunity there, my friend, to put that on a t-shirt, trademark, or whatever you got to do, my friend. You got to do that. I love it. I love that. I think that's a wonderful way to put that. Dude, you got to put that on
Passive
a t-shirt.
income podcast merch
I'll
coming
buy
out
it.
soon.
Yeah, you put that on a t-shirt, I will support you, my friend. I will
On a
buy that
coffee
shirt
mug,
because I
on
want.
anything.
Definitely, definitely. I think that's one of the ways you got to put yourself out there as well, right? You're just gonna walk around with stuff, with that saying, to say, like, hey guys, dividends are awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
well, let's get into it. What is your absolute most favorite dividend paying company or stock or share or
Oh, you know what? I don't know if I have a favorite, Dave. I actually don't know if I have a favorite dividend paying stock right now. uh Income Realty is my big one. So, as I'm sure, I know, I like listened to a few of your podcasts with former guests, and a lot of them brought up, you're the Americans.
all the
So,
Americans that are
um
into REITs have and just so you
I'm a big
know,
fan of REITs.
sorry?
I'm a big fan of
Yeah,
REITs.
I love
I'm a
REITs
big
too.
fan of REITs.
Just so you know my answer to my own question, what is my favorite dividend paying stock? It's the one that's
Yes,
paying me
tell me.
next.
Look at you. You got all these little expressions. I love it. I love it. And and that's the thing. It's like, do I have to have a favorite? I don't want a favorite. I appreciate the dividends that are paying me right now. But I will say, is the one that I'm actually pouring a lot into. So whenever I get that extra money coming in, um,
So you're
I'm pretty
dollar cost
consistent.
averaging into that one.
Always, my friend, always. There is not a month that goes by where I do not contribute to that dividend paying stock, to that company. So
That's
it's
awesome.
so if I would say right now, that would be the one that's on a silver platter,
Yeah. Every
and
single month
I
you're
like
giving
that one.
yourself a raise.
Oh, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love knowing that. I love knowing that. You know what? It's so fun. Like on Twitter, we're in this beautiful community, and all of us are just like posting our wins.
Yep.
And I don't care if you made 40 cents in dividends or if you made 200 in dividends. Like, the fact that you are investing and you're investing in these solid stocks and companies that are paying you, that
To not
is
work for them, they're paying you
fantastic.
to not work for them.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So it's definitely one of my favorite ways of, like, my favorite income stream is with dividends. So absolutely. I think we should continue to celebrate our wins, because it's better to make 40 cents in a dividend payment, right? A payout
Yeah,
versus like no dividend payout at all. So
because
I take the win.
yeah, you're not gonna make that 40 cents with that money just sitting in a savings account, so, you know, put it into an investment. I did see a tweet 3, maybe 4 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure how long ago it was, and the person was saying, "Oh, I got my absolute very first ever dividend payment," and it was I can't remember which
Yay.
currency it was in, it could have even been in UK, or it could have been in either Canadian or US dollars, but the number was 57, so either 57 cents or 57 pence. And they were super stoked about it. And I'm like, that's great. That's awesome
Yay.
because you know what? Like, that's just going to keep growing and growing. And you keep putting back into that. And, that 57, we'll call it cents, is going to turn into a dollar. That dollar is going to turn into $2. $2 is going to turn into five. Five is going to turn into 10. And it's just going to keep growing and growing. And that's the whole point of, you know, obviously the like drip and dividend reinvestment plan, dollar cost averaging, keep putting that money back in. Um, I'm not telling you anything you don't
One.
already know, but I love the fact that you're just nodding
No,
in agreement.
I love it. Oh, I mean, I don't want to interrupt the roll right now because I'm totally all about it. I love it. I love it. And I stand by that 100%. I think the biggest, one of the, I think the biggest thing to remember while we do that is you got to just think long term. Just remember long term. You're in there for the long game.
Definitely.
A lot of, I mean, like, in order for compound interest to really be in your favor, you've got to be in there for, I don't know, I would say about 5 years at least,
Oh,
like
I'm thinking longer,
maybe
10 to 10,
for
15,
sure.
and then look where you're going to be in
Exactly.
20 years, right?
Exactly, right? So, like, 5 years is like the minimum, but ultimately, you want to be in there for 10 years, 15 years, right? I think you and I might share, we probably share the same sentiment, my friend, where we want our dividends. Like, the ultimate goal is like, this dividend payment is going to pay for my Starbucks coffee. This dividend payment is going to pay for my vacation. This
Yeah.
dividend payment is going to pay for my retirement, right? Like, that's, I think, the dream for all of us.
Yeah. So if you've some of my past podcasts, you may have heard me mention some of the different Canadian companies. So one of the things I like to think is like, okay, Bell Canada is the my cell phone provider, so I want that
Hmm.
dividend to pay for my cell phone bill. My mortgage is currently with Bank of Nova Scotia. You've probably heard me tweet or heard me about the Canadian banks. So yeah, I would love to get that up to the Bank of Nova Scotia paying my mortgage for me, and
I
Ontario
love
Hydro
it. Yeah.
paying my monthly electricity bill, and you can kind of the list goes on with all these companies that you have to pay, and if you could get your dividend up so that they're paying you to pay them, you're like turning the cash register around.
Exactly. I like that. Turn the cash register around. Dave, you got so many good, like,
Okay, that
slogans
one,
here,
I'll
my
be
friend.
honest, that one I saw on Twitter. That I have to give credit to whoever that was on Twitter that I read that one from. It might have been Dividend Hero that said that one. I can't recall
Oh yeah, I
exactly.
love him. He's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very cool. Okay, yeah. You know what? I will say, Dave, I actually don't know much about the Canadian stock market, but definitely something I would love to learn more about. Later down the line, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
But
so I've had a
I
lot
have
of
heard you
past
talk about it. Yeah.
podcasts where we basically just go back and forth comparing with obviously I've had several American guests on now, and we just go back and forth comparing different sectors between the Canadian and US markets, and yeah, there's some very interesting similarities and some very interesting differences as well. I did just want to kind of
Yeah.
carry on from that, the opposite end of that spectrum. I was talking about the 57 cents dividend, but then you see the other tweets from people like Dividend John, who by the way, gave you a huge compliment today, calling you the real deal. Justine is the real deal when I was tweeting out that you were going to be on. And so, yeah, but you see tweets from accounts like his where
Oh,
just posting massive gains. Like, I
he's
think he had a
killing it.
record October where he had $7,800 or something. And it's like, that's impressive. That's very impressive. But again, going back to that longevity, he's been doing it for nearly 20 years, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, I know exactly who you're talking about. He is fantastic. Whenever I see his tweets, I'm like, yo, goals right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
goals, you know? So I just hit my 2000 annual dividend like goal, which is
Yeah.
great. But we want to be like John, right? We look up to the Johns, and shout out to him because he's great.
Yeah.
He's like a motivation for me when I see it. Everyone is.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
to see people winning on Twitter. But yeah, he's a heavy hitter. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think. There's so many, but
Yeah.
that's the ultimate goal, right? Like you eventually want to get there, but you hit the nail on the head, Dave. Where you can't get there overnight. Like that's just not going to
That's
happen, right? You just
longevity.
got to
That's 20
consistently show
years.
up.
And
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm around the same level as you, around that 2K annual passive income just from dividends, which it's a good feeling, right? That's 2 grand that I made this past year for literally not working for all of these companies. Another another I'm not sure if you follow him, but he was, I think, my second, maybe third guest on the podcast going back a month or so ago, at Dividend Daddy One. He's also Canadian, but he's also got some massive
you know,
monthly gains that are over 5 grand, and it's like, yeah, those are those motivational ones, right? Where you're like, just love to see it because that we can get there too.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And at the end of the day, Dave, like there is so much room on the top for all of us to be winners and to be up there and share that space. And I look at those guys and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm coming. I'm coming, nice and slow, but I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna celebrate as well. And I'm celebrating now. Every time,
Yeah,
every time that dividend hits, I'm like, oh my God, three
yeah,
dollars, let's go.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you and I, we're like soulmates here. We're like we're like so similar in looking at that. Like you say, the $3 or the $5 hits your account, and you're just like, whoa.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And you know what? I have so a lot of my individual stocks I actually hold in Robinhood. I used Robinhood when I first started investing. I know some people have different thoughts on Robinhood, but for me, I've just kept them there because I started there, and it's been okay for me, right?
Yeah,
No issues, knock on wood. Um, but with Robinhood, what I love about it is that when I look at my individual stocks, and when I get that dividend payment, like I get a nice little notification. So those are like the notifications I keep on. I
yeah,
turn off all the other types of notifications. But when it's a dividend payment, I'm like, check, keep that on for me, please.
yeah,
So I love seeing. I just got paid out in Apple, and it was like $5, something like that. And I'm like, you know what?
I'll take it.
I'm a fan. I'll
Yeah,
take it. I'll take it. So, and you know what? And I think you've seen me, and I tweet about this often. And again, this is like one investing strategy. Everyone has a different type of strategy. But for me, one of the things I do is I like to invest in companies that I am a consumer in, right? And especially if it's
yeah,
if it's a blue chip, right? If it's a blue chip company or whatnot, I like to invest in those. So, for example, if I'm drinking and I drink Starbucks coffee every morning, like I grind the beans, I drink it. Like I support Starbucks. And then if I go, for example, if I go to Texas, I'm going to see Starbucks. If I go to Vancouver, I'm going to see Starbucks. If I go to New York, I'm going to see Starbucks. If I go to Portugal, I'm going to see Starbucks. Right. And so, this is a heavy hitter.
yeah.
And then on top of that, I love knowing that I'm a consumer of that. So I have, I buy shares of
That's
of
awesome. And that's going
Starbucks.
back
You
exactly to
know,
what I was saying about, buying the telecommunications company that provides my cell service, buying, the bank that provides my mortgage. You use the companies or buy the companies that you use and that you're familiar with, that you know and love, right? Like If I had the share of McDonald's for every Big Mac I've ever eaten, right? That one I just
I
coined
love
right
it.
now, actually.
All right, you got to write these down, dude. Oh, actually, you have them recorded right now, so that's good. You're
Yeah,
recording, so this is good. You can go back and like write them down and get them on a T-shirt, my friend, because I'll support you in your T-shirts. But yeah, I'm a believer in that. I know some people don't like that, and that's okay. It's I think it's a strategy. Of course, always do your homework, right? Like
yeah,
always do your homework. Look into the companies. But if for me, if I do my homework and it's definitely a company that and I'm a consumer in, and they are top performing and they've proven themselves over the years, then for me, I'm more likely to buy and invest in those in those companies.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I agree 100%. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let's talk about dividend growth or dividend yield. And full disclosure, I've been very guilty of chasing high yields. And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to get to the point where it's like, I need to start looking more at dividend growth. So, what are your thoughts there?
I, dude, I totally get it. I think we can easily be. Sorry, there's motorcycles outside.
That's
Um,
okay.
I think we can easily be distracted by the high dividend yield because it's like, oh, more
Juicy,
money.
right? Yeah, more money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think that doesn't necessarily mean that that is a good, right, a good company or good stock to hold. So again, as I mentioned, I think you should do your homework.
Yeah.
I am a fan of the dividend growth, and usually you're looking at like the dividend aristocrats there. Those are top performing companies, and you can see the dividend growing year after year. And so I usually stand by those. I would be a big supporter of those. But again, do your homework.
do
Do
your
your
own,
homework.
do your own
Uh,
research, due diligence. Not financial
absolutely,
advice, but I think
absolutely.
that's pretty good advice, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's another thing, y'all. This is not financial advice. This is me and my friend Dave just chopping it up, right? Talking
Exactly.
about investing, but not giving any advice. Please, please, please do your homework.
Yeah.
Like,
Probably should have got
yeah,
that in a lot earlier, but that's okay. If somebody's still
you
watching this
know.
late in the podcast, then, well, one, definitely subscribe, hit the like button. I've been doing a poor job of asking people to comment. I should be getting more comments in the comment section and trying to grow the community here on the whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on the audio platforms. So, yeah, definitely join the passive income posse. And yeah, let's just keep going. Any favorite sectors that you have? I know you talked about realty. You've talked about Apple, so like REITs, like obviously one of your favorites. Technology has its place. Any other sectors that you really like? Starbucks, consumer
Uh,
staples, kind of a nice
right, exactly.
mix.
Exactly, exactly. And you know what? I think those would be my top sectors. I also think about consumer discretionary, right? And so Amazon, Amazon's like the giant.
Where do you
It's
think
the
I got this
giant.
microphone and headset? Right?
Dude, you know what? I have listened to some other podcasts and they're talking about how like Amazon is not good and this and that. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. Everyone has their opinion.
Yeah,
Everyone has their opinion. I always remind myself that like everyone has their opinion. But in my eyes, I'm like, damn, my pens are from Amazon. Like literally, the notebooks are on Amazon. I have notebooks on Amazon through KDP, right? Like I sell notebooks through KDP with
awesome.
KDP through on Amazon. Like, bro, I am not talking shit about Amazon. You know what I mean? Like I am straight up gonna be like, that's like the big brother you want to play with. You know what I mean?
The technology I'm waiting for from Amazon is when the delivery guy shows up and says, "Hey, you're going to order this in about 3 or 4 hours."
Right. Yeah. That's just you know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see that if that happens one day. I
Right?
really I would not be
The
surprised, and I
delivery
hope
guy
that
just
I
shows
am
up and says, "You need this. Just go ahead and put it on your Amazon account."
right. Exactly. Exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised about that. I'm thinking right now like what other sectors that might be. So I actually don't have anything in no individual dividend stocks in the healthcare field. Um, I don't I don't have any. Don't judge me. Um,
Okay, so I'm going to tell you
but
about
I
one. Let me tell you about one I have here in Canada that's called
yeah, tell
NWH.
me.
NWH is Northwest Healthcare. It's actually a REIT, but it's a REIT that
Oh,
invests in healthcare properties. So I really
okay.
like that one because you're covering two sectors. You're like sort of killing two birds with one stone, right? Having
Yeah,
that REIT,
yeah,
having that
yeah.
little healthcare exposure. I do have a couple other healthcare REITs actually, because obviously in Canada healthcare is extremely different than in the US. Um,
Let's not even get started on that one.
no,
That's
no,
a whole different podcast.
that's a whole different podcast. We won't go there. Um, yeah, so REITs are definitely one of, if not my most favorite sector as well. Telecoms is an
Yeah,
interesting comparison between
it
Canada and
is.
the US because in Canada basically we have these three big telecommunications companies: Bell Canada, TELUS, and Rogers, and they've now evolved into media companies similar to in the US. You have the
Hmm.
big three being AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and they have also forayed into the media world as well. So I find the telecoms, the telecommunications comparison between Canada and the US to be one of the very similar sectors. I don't know. Any thoughts on AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile?
So, Dave, here's how I'm going to put it. So, I currently hold AT&T. I currently hold AT&T, but it's kind of like that relationship that I need to end, but have not done it yet, my friend. You know, like
Who is your
I'm
cell
still
phone provider?
T-Mobile.
So why
T-Mobile.
don't you own T-Mobile?
I know, right? Exactly. I thought about it. I thought about it. I guess it's not a priority for me right now. I think with my cash flow that's coming in, for me, I'm pouring a lot of that into different other individual stocks that I want to grow a big portfolio for. And what I just mentioned at the beginning, it's primarily going into O.
Right.
So for me, you know what I mean? So I could own T-Mobile. I thought about it because I'm like, damn, that's the service provider that I use, that my family uses. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but it's just not a priority for me right now. And I've got money allocated for different places. So that's my story on that. I know. But I do have AT&T. I bought them a while back and they were doing really, really well until, as you know, up to recently. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like talking to you about it. I think there could be a world where I sell. I really need to break up with them. I really do. This relationship's got to go, my friend. It's got to go. And maybe I can take that and buy T-Mobile. Something to think about. That I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
I've got to do my homework, my research, but I don't know why I'm holding on to T-Mobile, to AT&T. It really is. It really is. It's got to go. It hasn't been doing that well. And it's just kind of sitting there. And there's a part of me that's like thinking, okay, it's going to get better. But then
Yeah.
at the same time,
So
I don't know.
interesting side note, kind of sticking with the telecom theme. I had at Scoreboard Investor on. I'm not sure if you follow him on Twitter or not. He was one of my
Ah,
third, fourth, maybe fifth guest on the podcast, and we got on off onto a rather unique tangent about how you could probably form a pretty good portfolio just by the stadium names around North America. I'm not sure if you're a sports fan, but obviously there's AT&T Park, there's T-Mobile Arena, I think there's a Verizon Center in Canada. We have the Bell Center. There's Rogers actually sponsors. There's a Rogers Center, Rogers Arena, and Rogers Place in Vancouver, Edmonton, and uh, Toronto. The Bell Center's in Montreal. And then we just got talking about all sorts of different things like the United Center in Chicago, and you could potentially form a pretty decent portfolio just based on your favorite sports teams. Any thoughts
oh
on
my God.
sports?
I love it. Well, okay, well, that's a good question. I do enjoy watching sports. Just for example, yesterday I went to the Clippers and Nets game here at the crypto.com. Still so weird.
Yeah,
As an LA native, to not call it the Staples Center is just the weirdest thing. Let me tell you that. It's just so weird. But anyways, that's a side note.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I do enjoy watching sports. Um, Football is on right now. I know the World Cup is about to start as well in a few weeks. Actually, I think maybe was it 2 weeks.
yeah.
So
Canada
I am a
qualified for the first
fan.
time since 1986. Yeah, we're gonna
Congratulations!
lose our
There
first.
you go.
We're gonna lose all 3 games in the round robin, but that's okay. We're not known as a soccer playing nation.
I mean, you guys have hockey and ice
Yeah,
skating,
so that's what I was
and
just gonna mention. I remember when the LA Kings played in the
yeah.
old LA Forum. So like I remember when stadiums didn't have sponsored names. They had cool names like in I think it was San Francisco that had Candlestick Park and Boston Gardens and obviously well Madison Square Gardens is still called that. But
Mhm.
I remember when all the stadiums had these really unique cool names. Like Toronto had Maple Leaf Gardens and but now they're all sponsored
Oh,
by big corporations. Just a side note, I guess.
right. Yeah, no, I like that. That, you know what? That's, well, I guess that could say that maybe speaks volumes as to how these big corporations can pretty much just sponsor and own everything. Which now brings me back to what you said about your previous guest, how he said you could basically have a solid portfolio based off sports arenas. Like, dude, that's really cool. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, you still
I
have to
that
like look into it, and
Of
uh,
course, of
it
course.
almost want you have to go through because there's a lot of them, right? Like obviously the NBA and NHL share a lot of stadiums, but then there's like and some I guess some baseball and NFL stadiums are probably shared as well. But there's so
Mhm.
many stadiums in North America, and I think they now all have a sponsored name other than, like I said, Madison Square Gardens, and so, yeah, that's would just be a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
like, Anaheim, that's the Honda Center, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
it is.
Yeah,
It
so,
is. It
like,
is.
there's Honda's probably a good company to own too, I haven't really looked into that one, but
Yeah, you know what? I haven't looked into it either, but they're reliable cars. I used to have a Honda. The Japanese cars are great. Um, so yeah, I haven't looked into that, but I should. I should look into that. I'm really intrigued now. I think after today's chat, I'm gonna go online and I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna look at the names of all the arenas. Shout out to your guest that said that. That's really interesting. I think I'm gonna look it up and just see what the names of the stadiums are um, here in the U.S. That yeah, I think that's a fun little project I'm gonna work on.
yeah, so shout out to, at Scoreboard Investor on Twitter, give him a follow if you're not following him already.
Yeah, I'm gonna scoreboard investor. Yeah, I'm gonna look at that. I mean, I'll look into him. That's awesome. I think that's a really funny. Of course, do your homework, but I think that's really funny at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. We have crypto.com now is the Staples Center, right? That
yeah,
took over. And it's funny, I don't have any crypto. I don't know, Dave, if you have you own any, are you in crypto or no?
I have some crypto, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I don't have any. I haven't thought about it, and even though it's flying around everywhere. But again, my priorities are elsewhere right now, so it's
Yeah,
the
definitely, so
best way I could put it.
like so many people, I got into crypto last year when it was like all the hype, and I learned a lot about crypto. So I'm not overly concerned that it's crashed. I'm confident a lot of things like Bitcoin will go back up. But now that the hype phase of crypto is over, it has really allowed me to focus on my dividend portfolio and stacking those divvies, as you probably see me say on Twitter, stack those divvies brick by brick. Everybody says brick by
Yeah.
brick, but just keep stacking those divvies every month, every quarter, dividend
Oh
reinvestment
yeah.
plan, dollar cost average. Sound like a broken record, but
But you know what? It's interesting because people, when they start investing, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear like day by
no, they want to
day,
hear,
brick
oh, can
by
I buy a
brick.
penny stock and it's going to turn into a $10 stock tomorrow, and it's like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, they just want those like quick results, and they don't really want to enjoy the journey, right? And for some people it's like, okay, I dollar cost average, now what? And sometimes it's like, dude, just keep
Just
it
keep
simple,
dollar cost
yo. Like,
averaging. Just keep it going every month, every
you know,
paycheck, whatever you can afford.
exactly. Whatever you can afford, just keep going. And if it's $25 this month, and then, somehow you get a pay raise like through your job, or you pick up another job, or you have a side hustle and you can put in more, then go ahead and put in more. The point is, you just got to keep showing up. But some people just don't, like, they're looking for more. And
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder, like, more is not always better. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to keep it simple. Just
Pay
keep it
yourself first
simple.
when that paycheck comes in. Like the paycheck I have sitting in my bank account right now from last week is it has to go primarily to bills, like my phone bill and everything else, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's like the very first thing I did was put $50 into my brokerage account, and I know that's a low amount, but then on my next paycheck, when all the bills are paid, it's like, oh, now I can put like a few hundred in, and by that time too, I'll have all those monthly dividends from the REITs sitting there after the a lot of them get paid on the 15th, so they settle into my account on the 16th every month. And so by the time I have my next paycheck, I also have I have to work next Saturday, unfortunately, but that's a day that I'll get time and a half. One, I guess I can do one Saturday per year for time and a half, but so my next paycheck I'll have a little extra also to put in, and it's just you make those choices, right? It's all about choices.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. You know what? I have to. Okay, I'm gonna share this because why not, right? So one of my posts, I think it might have been last week, and I talked about, I started off like only putting in like $100 or something like that, right? When I first started investing, when I, yeah, when I first started investing, then obviously now I'm putting in almost close to 2,000 a month in investing. And someone commented on that and said, well, like, isn't this a result of your income increasing instead of you like investing more? And so I was like, actually, it's a combination of both, right? And so I knew, for me, for myself, I knew that if I wanted to invest more, I would have to find ways to earn more money,
Right.
right? And that's the thing, because if I just sit on my ass and expect a pay raise at work, that's not going to happen. So, and
Happens
I
occasionally,
am
but not every month. Like with the dividend, I know every single month, whether it goes up by 50 cents or by $5, every single month I'm making more in dividends. I'm giving myself a
exactly,
raise every
exactly,
single month. I don't get a raise every
exactly,
month at work.
exactly. That's not happened to, trust me, if that was happening every month, that would be a whole different story.
You're lucky
But
to
even
get one
then,
every year, maybe every 2 years, right?
exactly, super lucky, super fortunate. So, I mean, and there's only so much you can cut from your budget, right? So for me, in my mind, I'm always thinking like, okay, how can I make a little bit more money? So, dude, I started working at a wine bar,
Nice.
right? I started working at a wine bar because I was like, first of all, I like me some wine.
Yeah,
Okay, number
and I like
one.
me some
Num-
tips.
yeah, you know? So like I started working at a wine bar, and because one, I wanted to learn about wine because I do enjoy drinking wine. I wanted to learn about wine. And on top of that, I could go for some extra money. And why not learn about wine and pour wine and make money? So for me, that worked for me, right?
Yeah,
So I I took a look at my calendar and I was like, can I make time for this? Right? Can I prioritize it? So for 6 months, I worked at a wine bar. And working at that wine bar, I got tips. I had extra income from that paycheck. And everything from that paycheck and the tips went into investing, went into,
awesome.
into investing every single month. So nothing changed with, sorry, I live in
LAPD
downtown
on the
LA.
job.
Yeah, I live in downtown LA, so it's just like constant movement.
Yeah,
But I literally took that money and I just poured it into dividend paying stocks, into index funds, because I'm also a massive fan of index funds. And I just paid myself. Oh, so that's how I got myself there. It wasn't because I was like sitting on my ass hoping and waiting for something to happen, but like I understood and realized that number one, if I'm going to make extra money, I need to keep my expenses low and not change anything about my lifestyle. And then make sure that I take this money and I pay myself first. So it
Yeah.
was a nice, like, cash injection. Do I still work there? I do not, my friend. I do not work there anymore. But that's okay. I think it served my life for that season, right? That
Yeah.
season of my life, it served me, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'm working on other projects. But I think the number one thing is for anyone that's listening out there that wants to start investing, that wants to contribute more, you can cut from your budget, but there's only so much fat you can trim, my friends, right?
Yeah.
So find ways to increase your income to get you started so you can start building those like healthy habits of DCAing, showing up every single month and investing, constantly, whether it's weekly or monthly, right? So you got to find a way. Got to find a way.
100%. Couldn't agree more. You mentioned Vancouver earlier, and I used to live in Vancouver for nearly 15 years,
Oh,
and
it's beautiful
I
there.
love Vancouver. It's probably my favorite city on the planet. But
No.
so my side hustle, so I worked construction Monday to Friday, but in the winter I taught snowboarding on Grouse Mountain on Saturdays and Sundays, and
Oh,
even a couple weeknights. So basically, it was like people are paying 100, 200 more dollars to go snowboarding for a day. Well, I'll go and get paid a very small amount, but still like, you know, maybe $50 to teach a snowboarding lesson in Saturday morning. And then I have the rest of Saturday afternoon to go snowboarding with my friends all over the mountain. And so I'm getting paid to do something I love to do anyway. Those were some good times. I did that for 6 seasons, and yeah, that's kind of going back to what you were saying about the wine bar. You're learning about wine and getting paid to do it. Well, in my case, I was getting paid to teach a snowboarding lesson and then
oh, I love
not
it.
have to pay for the lift ticket for the rest of the day, right?
Right. Oh my God, sick. And then you get to just snowboard all day, which is awesome, right? I
Yes.
love it. I think this is a good conversation, right, Dave? In a sense that, like, we want to be doing the things that we love, right? The things that we enjoy. And sometimes you make that little trade off of, well, hey, and you make that trade off, and hopefully it is a win win, like in both of our situations, right? So I think that's wonderful. Side note, this so in 2023, I'm planning on investing in wine, right? I'm going to go into wine investing.
Awesome.
I've been wanting to do it, but again, it's not a priority. But 2023, it is on my list of what I want to start doing in 2023 in terms of investing and diversifying my portfolio. And I'll tell you, because I started working at that wine bar, I was like, I am really enjoying this. And then I started looking into wine and investing because, Dave, some of those wines are so expensive.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and when you're hanging around a lot of people that talk about wine, right? Like, I'm a like fly on the wall, I'm listening, and a lot of them are saying, oh yeah, this is like you know a 50-year-old bottle, or this is like I don't know, a 60-year-old port from Portugal, right? And you're just sitting there thinking like, oh my God, that is probably X amount of money. And then they tell you like it's worth a few hundred and whatnot. You're just like, wow. So I think it's worth looking into different types of um, different ways of investing, or looking into different types of products that you can invest in. And so wine investing for me is definitely something that I want to look into. I don't know if they're going to pay dividends though. I'll keep you posted.
Okay. Sounds good. Speaking of wine, or just the last podcast I just uploaded, it took me, I was having horrible internet connections yesterday, and it took me 12 hours to upload it. But the guest was his name is at Vote Willows, and he's actually got a second Twitter at Drunk Dividends. And the podcast starts out with his introduction saying, I get drunk for a living. So he actually, at the age of 18 or 19 years old, started a winery in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which, if you know anything about the geography of Canada, Manitoba is not the place to start a winery. But basically, his story was him and his friend started for $50 making wine, $25 investment each, and they started to get good at it, and then they somehow grew into this company. He's got a very interesting backstory. That's the last podcast I just uploaded before this one. So yeah, definitely check him out and check that podcast out as well. And on that
I
note,
think that's wonderful. I think that's great. I'm going to look out for it, Dave. I'm going to
yeah,
look out for it.
cool. We did have some technical issues on that one, some audio back and forth, but it turned out okay. He did some editing on it for me, so it's not as bad as it could have been. But anyways, on that note, I see we're already over 50 minutes. I have so truly enjoyed having you on. Um, at Rusty Ram, you have some competition for the most energetic guest so far on the Passive Income podcast. Rusty was great. He brought a lot of energy, but oh wow, you've brought a lot of energy as well. So I really appreciate that.
Yes. Dave, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited that I got to share the last hour with you, because I know we chatted a little bit before we came on camera. And so thank you so much for having me. I'm just really blessed and really lucky and fortunate to have been here. So thank you again. And also representing all the women investors out there. We need
Yes,
more.
again,
We need more.
thank you for being the very first female voice on the Passive Income podcast. I do have one more scheduled. I'm not sure if you saw my tweet, but
I did.
Lauren at Adulting is Easy. I'm not
Yes.
100% sure adulting is easy, but so yeah,
I
I
love it.
am
I know.
looking
I saw
forward.
that.
I am looking forward to having more female guests on the Passive Income podcast. But thank you so much for being the very first.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And you know what? If I could just leave it on this, if anyone out there listening, if you have women in your life who are afraid of investing, please encourage them to. I think that is I, I want to put that out there. I think teach them, help them not be afraid and let them know that it's totally
The
okay and
stock
it's
market
so
doesn't
good.
care if you're male, female,
Right.
straight, gay,
Yeah.
white, Asian, black. The stock market doesn't care. It's the absolute most inclusive club in the world.
Right, exactly. And really anyone can get in with fractional shares, right? So, or, you can invest with just as little as $20, right? So if you can have brunch on Saturday, you can invest $20 into the stock market. So please,
Exactly.
please, please encourage everyone in your life to invest. The women in your life, encourage them to invest. The youth in your life, encourage them to invest. Like, as Dave said, like, it does not discriminate. The stock market, it's our friend.
Exactly. And I look forward, like, you're still quite young, only just approaching your mid 30s. So I will love to see where you're going to be in by the time you're my age, basically.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you'll see me. I'm gonna be here. I'm not going anywhere, my friends.
Awesome. Thanks again. Like,
All
comment, and
right.
subscribe.